time to stop talking about management. Since this is going on YouTube, I got to keep the joke up. So there was no pre-lecture today because I mistakenly put it on my schedule originally as MLK Day, and I didn't catch that until after I put the pre-lectures in, which is why you got that bonus. Homework 1 was due today. Most of that was a review from EE380. We're going to go over some of the questions you may have had on the homework, or they're like embedded in the slides today. The things that I know people usually ask me about. There is a pre-lecture on Thursday. On Friday, Lab 1, pre-lab is due. There is a submission link in BB Learn. Me and Max will be in room 106 in masks. You can choose to zoom in for the lab, or if you want to come in, you can do that because it's a little bit confusing. Before the lab, look in the lab folder in BB Learn, and there are directions for setting up a link through remote desktop, written by somebody who knows exactly what I'm doing. They're written especially for this class. Follow those directions and make sure you can get into remote desktop and you can launch the X session and you can launch the Pixis Project Navigator, PPN. If you can get that far, you should be ready to start lab. Other things that go, if you're having trouble with that, it may take us a day or two to get it straightened out. So try it now, and if you're having trouble, send me an email because I can go directly to the guy who knows how to fix it. And I might be able to even fix it myself, surprisingly. So try that beforehand. If you wait until Friday morning, you may not get a really quick response out of me. If you do it, what's today, Tuesday? If you do it tomorrow or Thursday, I will do what I can to help you because it takes me about sometimes an hour or two to get a hold of Pete. So do that before lab. We're going to finish lab 1 in 1 week. The following Friday will be your lab 1 quiz. And when you finish that, I'm heading down to Phoenix to get my first vaccination. So yeah. I'm in group 1B priority because I teach you kids. It's the one perk I get with this job, other than only having to talk about engineering and not having to do it. Although I do some engineering too. Okay. Where are we at? We're down here. Generally, Arizona Board of Regents, what they say, this is a 4-hour class. You're going to spend 3 hours in lecture and 3 hours in lab. You're going to have to spend at least 6 hours per week outside on class time, doing the homework problems, going through the lecture slides, doing the pre-lecture, and doing the reading. This is the investment in time it takes to do really well in school. Well, not everybody tells you that, but this is true. An engineering school student, if you're taking 12 credit hours, that's a 48-hour-a-week job, and you got to take it seriously. Labs start on Friday. There is a pre-lab. The pre-lab is in the lab assignment, and it's in BB Learn. That's another thing that you don't want to wait until 15 minutes before the lab because it's going to involve hunting for formulas in the Cedric Smith book. So I would start it at least Thursday at the latest. But get hooked up, be able to open the PPN, try to get that far before you come in for lab. If you're coming in for lab on person, then you don't have to worry about that because those computers will connect. That's why I'm giving you the option to come in. Some people aren't as good with IT as others. So today we're going to go through, I think we're not finishing up these slides. We will go through the MOSFET current voltage characteristics, look at the 3 regions of operation, learn how to calculate currents, and how to look at the border lines between those 3 regions of operation. So these are all the transistor symbols that I think I normally use. There's another one that I use for hand-drawn. For my hand-drawn version, gate, drain, source. This is NMOS, which is the normal transistor. The abnormal transistor, which I always have to do NMOS first because PMOS is just backwards. Looks like this gate. The source goes up, it goes to the highest voltage, and then the drain. The drain and the source are really symmetrical, and you can see that in the cross sections. What defines the drain? The drain in the NMOS goes to the highest voltage in the circuit. And the source in the PMOS, this is PMOS, goes to the highest voltage in the circuit, which is usually why PMOS is drawn upside down. Those are my hand-drawn versions of these symbols. The IEEE standard for them, and this is the way most people draw them by hand too, it's not just me. IEEE standard, I don't have a bubble at the gate, so this is NMOS. The PMOS version of that, it still has the capacitor at the gate, but it has a bubble, so this is a PMOS. So first question on the first exam, I will give you a picture of a transistor and it will be one of these symbols. I will ask you, is it NMOS or is it PMOS? That's worth some points. Next part of the question is label the drain, gate, source, and body if appropriate. Sometimes the body terminal is not in there. Next part of the question would be to tell me what region of operation it's in. And the last part of the question would be to calculate the current. There's always a version of that on every exam, and it's always the easiest problem on there. So try to get that right. Now, if I don't have the bubbles to tell me the difference between NMOS and PMOS, I usually have the arrows. And the arrows are always attached to the source. So that's telling you that's the source. If the arrow's pointing in, if it's an any, like a belly button that's an any, then this is a PMOS. That's an any. This is the source here. It's an outie. Belly button that points out. And this is an NMOS. NMOS. So same thing with this one. This is an NMOS. It's an outie. This is an any. This is a PMOS. Okay, these two down here are different. G and H. The arrow isn't on the source. These are 4 terminal devices and the arrow's on the body. The rules get reversed. If it's a outie on the body, then that means it is PMOS. The arrow indicates the direction of current flow. And if you sit down and think about that, it will make sense. NMOS, it's an any, it's an N on the body. And all of the terminals are named on here. I can draw them upside down, I can draw them sideways, it doesn't matter. You can figure out which one's which. On this one, you have to figure out which one's the drain and the source by which one's the higher voltage. Okay, there is a right answer to that. That is question 1 on the exam. Pretty much every semester. Thank goodness we went back to a normal exam schedule where we have 2 exams. Otherwise, the one midterm, it was a heck of an exam to study for. Now, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to draw a ID VDS curve. And typically the way these things work is this is VDS. So VDS is the independent voltage. I put a gate voltage on here that's constant, and I'm going to have the gate voltage greater than the threshold voltage, which means that the transistor will be on and the curve will look something like this. So this is VG1. Now, if I put a higher gate voltage on there, I'm going to get a curve that looks like this, VG2. And this is increasing VG. And I could actually produce a family of curves. And that's usually what you see associated with transistors, are these curves like this. What's going to happen to the state of the shape of the channel? Well, there's two things I have to think about when I'm thinking about the shape of the channel. Be proud of me, actually. With a gate voltage here, this gate is acting like a capacitor. So I'm just going to put positive charge. Oh no, I'll be back. 18. I'm locked up. Give me about 30 seconds.